Welcome to the Hidden Potential Podcast. I'm your host, Homer Hargrove, and today we're going to be talking about 3 tips to effective leadership. In this episode, we're going to be talking about tips on how to keep yourself busy and fresh within your leadership. We're going to talk about resiliency, and we're going to be talking about how to believe and accept success. In this episode, I'm going to give you practical and mental tools to be able to help you tap into your hidden potential as a leader. And every week we come out with a new episode to be able to help you in your organization or leadership. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started by going into a big thought, and that is within leadership, we go through different seasons and phases in which our leadership feels like we're on top of the world and other moments where we feel like we're running into a tree. And today, these 3 tips that I want to share with you guys are more so fresh tips that I feel like have been really helping encourage in my leadership that I want to be able to share with you guys. You know, we often go through these different seasons where ups and downs, whatever it may be, and we learn new things, or maybe some old things become more clear. And I hope that in today's episode, to be honest, I'm really just going to be sharing my heart on what I've been going through and how I feel like it could be effective for you. So let's go ahead and get started with the first tip, and that is keep yourself busy and fresh. Now, what I mean by that is, depending on how long you've been in leadership, for me, I'm going on 15 years this coming year. And there's so many different things that have my hands on or have started and put down, and other things that I set up and kind of just never revisited. And it's really easy to become stagnant once you feel like, well, it's completed, I don't ever have to do this again. And a simple example would be like your website. Maybe it's your church or your own personal website, organization, whatever it is. And again, this is just an example, but a lot of times people will set up that website once and then never look at it again. While studies show that you should kind of freshen up your website every 2 to 3 years. And it kind of goes with even like rebranding yourself and kind of keeping yourself fresh to where you don't feel stagnant. It doesn't mean that you completely change how everything looks or you completely change what you do. It's more so critiquing and making these little 2mm shifts in how you say things or how you represent things, how you show things. And sometimes it could be just something really small, and other times you might realize you need to make a big shift. Whatever it is, keeping yourself fresh, staying busy is kind of a key within leadership to where it helps you to stay in a mindset of anticipation. You're trying to constantly gain friction. You're trying to constantly get a new grip on growth or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. And for me, this is kind of coincidental to this topic, but as an example, today I just made it public that I'm releasing a new book, and it's going to be a 90-day devotional, something simple, something that I worked hard on, but it's actually one of many books that I have going. I don't want to sound pretentious. One of several different books that I've been working on. It happens to be the first one that I'm ready to put out. But it's easy for us to even get like a dream or aspiration. Maybe you've been wanting to write a book and you started one and you kind of hit a wall to where you haven't touched in a while. Or maybe you've been wanting to start your own podcast, but you're hitting that wall. Or maybe you've already started it, but you feel like it's not really effective like you once, the way that you thought it would be. Whatever it is, whatever kind of content or connection that you're trying to make with people, what I'm trying to encourage you to do is just kind of freshen yourself up and get busy with it. Don't allow yourself to think that it will grow on its own. Nothing will grow on its own except failure. It's just a hard truth. And so if you feel like you don't have anything to do, then you should try to find something to do, find something to work on, and don't allow yourself to get into that place of being stagnant or not having projects that you're working on. You need to keep your hands busy as a leader, and you'd be surprised at how over time you almost unintentionally set up all these dominoes to work together and flow. It just takes longer than expected. But if you're not busy, then once the time is right, there's not going to be any dominoes to fall. There's not going to be anything ready in the works. It's just going to be an incredibly stagnant to where you might feel you're going to get discouraged and feel like, what's the point of me doing this? So again, keep yourself fresh, keep yourself busy. Today's episode is brought to you by my new book, Feed My Sheep, a 90-day devotional for spiritual growth, is set to release June 27th, which happens to be my birthday, and it'd mean the world for me if you would order one of my books from my website, homerhargrove.com. Follow the links and you could order it today, and I'll be sending it out to you myself. It'd really mean a lot to me, and it will help support this ministry. That being said, let's get back to today's episode. Number 2, always get back up. I think this is a lot easier said than done, but again, it's going to be 15 years soon for me of being in leadership and ministry. And there are so many moments to where I felt great and then other moments where I felt terrible. And I think some of the most terrible moments were in the moments where things fell short or things did not work out, or even I had someone tell me something mean. And there's these moments where I feel like I could clearly look back on to where I felt like I was knocked down. And like I said, it was sometimes after a Sunday service and having no one show up and thinking, why did I spend all these hours preparing for an empty room? Or there's other times where I thought I was doing a good job, and then I got a really mean text or a message or a call from somebody that told me that they didn't like me, that they hated me, that they thought I was X, Y, or Z. And those moments will make you feel like giving up. Every time that I felt that intense fear or intense closeness of giving up to where I was really thinking about it. I came really close. Almost directly after I made the decision to stick with it or keep going, I would see this great success in some area. I would see this effectiveness that made it all worth it. And my thoughts and hearts to you is that I really want you to connect with this point here, is that I know that there are times where it hurts. There are times where it sucks. And if you're in that point right now, I just want to encourage you, get back up. You can do this. I know that it has been hard, and I know that it feels even discouraging to where you're starting to think, maybe you're even thinking like I once did at different times, maybe I'm just wasting my life. Maybe I'm just killing time and I should be doing something else. I'm telling you, it is tough. It's hard, but great things have small beginnings, and you should not allow yourself to give up at this point, because you may not know what the tomorrow holds. What if next month everything worked out? Would you be happy with what you're doing? Consider it like that. Instead of the fantasy of doom, thinking that it's never going to work, why not have a fantasy of hope and believing that just one day it will all pay off? So again, always get back up. If you get back up, you will win. I think that 80% of success is really just showing up. And the other 20% is that busyness and freshness of once we're there. But if you simply continue to show up, continue to be consistent, you will see progress. I mean, even just for this podcast, I'm on episode 68 now. I've been doing it over a year, and it's taken me nearly a year and a half to even see just a little bit of traction. And you have to understand that that's just with a podcast. I've had the same kind of experience with church, with book writing, with other ministries, even with work and recovery center. There's been so many times where I thought, why am I doing this? And then the minute I decided to continue and be consistent and hold fast, that next week or that next month, I would see great results that made me feel fulfilled and satisfied with what I was doing. So again, don't give up. Get back up and know that you're not alone. And if you really need some help, or maybe you need some coaching or advice, you're always welcome to reach out, email me or message me, and we can have a conversation about that. Number 3, allow yourself to believe in success. Now, this sounds, I want to be clear that I'm not trying to make a provocation of The Secret or anything like that. I'm not trying to promote New Age relativism. If you name it, claim it. I'm not saying anything like that. But a while back, several months ago, I heard this podcast, another leadership podcast, where one of the guests on the show was talking about how they believed that the biggest change in their leadership was when they started believing that they were worthy and as a person to be successful, to receive good things. And they use that even phrase that I am worthy. And I really struggled with that because I don't think I can necessarily say that. I don't feel like I could say those words so confidently, I am worthy. And I struggle with imposter syndrome. I struggle with insecurities. And I realize that I still struggle with the sense of receiving good things from God. And in that moment, I for the next several weeks, I started trying to work out how can I accept this statement in a way that fits with my philosophy and my beliefs, that doesn't project me to be entitled. And I came up with this simple statement of I'm allowed to be successful. And as simple as it is, I feel like I've been meditating on that, and I've been having it in my prayer time. Even when I do like my cold plunges in the morning, I'll just be sitting in there meditating and having that phrase go through my head, that I'm allowed to be successful. And I feel like it was a really big, major shift in my leadership, of how happy I could be in doing what I'm doing, and also in the effectiveness. I felt like just that mental and heart change, that again, it's like a 2 millimeter shift. But once I made that shift, I felt like I just started seeing all these things that I've been working towards and hoping for, praying for. It seemed as though they just like kind of fell into place. And I'm not trying to necessarily say that my insecurities or my doubts were keeping me away from these good things. But what I am saying is that there's a spiritual note here. There's something meaningful about believing that you are allowed to receive goodness from God. And again, maybe it's part of my past, to where I struggle with that, and I have a hard time receiving good things, like I don't deserve it. And honestly, I don't think any of us deserve anything good. Every breath that we have is a gift. But this idea that I feel like I am able to make the stretch and say, well, I am allowed to be successful in what I'm doing, and I'm allowed to be happy. Those simple truths are beautiful, and they're biblical. And I would encourage you that if you're a person that struggles with that as well, I'm telling you, that simple shift made a huge difference for me in these last several months, to where, again, I'm saying the same thing again, but I saw all these different things that I've been like working for years, working towards for years, just seem to all fall in place one right after another. So again, we talked about today, keep yourself busy and fresh, always get back up, and allow yourself to believe you can be successful. Let me give you 3 takeaways before we end today's episode. Number 1, either start a new project or initiative, or freshen up an existing one that you haven't touched in a while. Number 2, write down some daily affirmations to declare over yourself for your next knockdown moment. What I mean by this is whether it's a daily affirmation where you're telling yourself, I am called, I am a good leader, or it's even writing down why you're doing what you're doing so that you can cling to that, because there is going to be a time where you get knocked down. If not for the first time, you're going to get knocked down again later on. And number 3, make a regular practice of believing and accepting the possibility of success in your heart and in your mind for your leadership, for your life, for your organization. All that being said, I hope that today's episode was meaningful for you. I hope that made a difference in your leadership and in your life. And I want to also take a moment to promote the new book that I mentioned just a little bit ago. It's a 90-day devotional, Feed My Sheep, and it's going to be the first series of different volumes. It's going to be volume 1, and you can order it by going to my website, homerhargrove.com/resources. You'll find all the information there when you go to the website. But again, it'd really mean a lot to me if you'd order my book, order this book, and even leave a review on my website. I'd love to hear your thoughts and how you feel about it. All that being said, thank you so much. Have a great life. Well, there you have it. I hope that this episode was meaningful and edifying for your leadership and your growth within your ministry and organization. Could you do me a favor? Could you leave a rating and review for this podcast? It'd really help me out and help others be able to see this show in their feed. You can also visit homerhargrove.com to be able to learn more, connect, or become one of our supporters. Until next time, have a great life.